This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
This is Family Life Hometowns, a chance to get to know the stories behind the cities, towns, villages, and birds that make up the Family Life listening area. We take a look at their history and learn what makes them special. Today, we spotlight Oil City, Pennsylvania. And if ever the name of a city told its story, it would be Oil City, PA. Located along the Allegheny River at the mouth of Oil Creek, the history of the largest city in Venango County is inexorably linked to the black gold found bubbling out of the ground there. Before white settlers arrived, Native Americans had been using oil naturally seeping out of the ground for everything from skin ointment and insect repellent to skin coloring and religious ceremonies. However, the first settlers to the area viewed oil seeps as more of a problem, interfering with farmers who found the oil-rich soil unsuitable for growing crops. But by the 1850s, scientists began to realize powerful other uses for that crude oil, and the hunt began for oil underneath the ground of western Pennsylvania. Local author Rick Sheffer, in his 2010 documentary about the early Pennsylvania oil industry, describes the history-altering event that happened on a late summer day in 1859.
On August 28, as the drill bit reached a depth of 69.5 feet, they broke through a rock formation and crude oil started rising slowly up the well. The oil was brought to the surface with a hand pitcher pump, and 20 barrels of oil was collected in a bathtub that day. But more importantly than the 20 barrels per day recovered, Drake proved that large quantities of oil could be brought up from the ground, and thus started the world's petroleum industry.
Colonel Edwin Drake's strike in nearby Titusville meant the black gold rush was on. By 1861, the first well had been drilled in Oil City, bringing forth the area's new lifeblood. A machine shop was built up along Oil Creek to equip new well drillers coming into the area. Boomtowns sprang up everywhere, including nearby Venango City, which eventually merged with Oil City. Oil City's population went from 12 families in 1860 to 6,000 people just 5 years later. And as the boom rolled on, Oil City had an extra advantage. The bend in the Allegheny River there slows the current, providing an easier landing spot for the barges that began lining up to carry oil off to waiting customers. However, the burgeoning burg had its share of troubles as well. The city was partially destroyed by a flood in 1865 and another flood and fire the following year. Then, in 1892, another fire and flood caused major devastation. Lightning struck several oil tanks, sending a mass of burning oil into the city, claiming 60 lives and causing property damage exceeding $1 million. However, despite all of that, Oil City persevered and eventually gave birth to a couple of nationally recognized companies.
Everywhere I go, people ask me, Arnie, is that old tractor you drove in the Pennzoil commercial still running?
Quaker State. The big U stands for quality. Always has, always will.
The name Quaker State was established in 1912, although it didn't do its own oil drilling at that time, rather focused on refining and distribution, eventually merging with several other regional petroleum companies under the Quaker State banner. And Pennzoil was established in 1913, eventually acquiring rival Quaker State in 1998, while both of them, along with the Wolf's Head brand, were in turn acquired by Shell Oil in 2002. However, all three area brand names continue to exist today. As for the Pennsylvania oil boom, the Keystone State's production peaked in 1891 when it produced nearly 60% of America's oil. But then came the slowing of production in PA, along with the discovery of even greater oil reserves in Texas, California, and Oklahoma. And by 1901, the Pennsylvania oil boom had gone bust, although PA did continue to be a significant petroleum producer well into the 20th century. And Oil City has continued to lean into its storied petroleum past well into the 21st century, while embracing other natural resources which the oil boom displaced. In fact, there's no better example of that than Oil Creek State Park, just north of the city, a 6,000-acre expanse of forest, fisheries, and outdoor recreation opportunities interspersed with remnants of its oily past, including a wooden recreation of an oil derrick. And on the fringes of the park, you'll also find the Drake Well Museum, which chronicles Colonel Edwin Drake's 1859 discovery that forever linked Oil City with the black gold that gave it its name. You've been listening to Family Life Hometowns, a look at the cities, towns, villages, and burgs that make up the Family Life listening area. Please join us again next time for another edition of Family Life Hometowns.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.